Thanks for joining today. And first of all, I hope you just find this session incredibly valuable. We are in the second of the Roundtable series about risk proofing your business and really setting yourself up for success as you build and increase and grow the value of your business. And I want to start off this session actually with a story. I want you to step back in time, back into the 2000s, and see yourself on a basketball court. And you're watching a young entrepreneur that's watching a game of kids in a pickup game of basketball. One of the kids asked the entrepreneur, "Can you switch me out? I got to go to the restroom." Of course, why not? Switches out and starts to play the game. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, as they get into the lane, an elbow right to the throat knocks out this young entrepreneur on the ground. A trach is put in, and the next thing he knows, he's waking up with tubes in his body and not being able to speak. Now, mind you, he was very successful, 26 years old, running a business, making good money each year, had no worries, didn't really do a lot of planning, but didn't need to because he was making good money. And in that moment, it led to 6 surgeries out of pocket, not speaking for over a year, having to quit and having to close down the entire operation just to make sure he could survive on his own and then pick up the pieces and hopefully to make something work going forward. Now, the story does have a good ending. Not all do, though. And the good ending is he ended up finding his path, getting his voice back, and stepping into the financial world and helping other businesses not ever walk down that journey. Now, this incredible individual is my better half. And part of the reason why we do what we do today, actually, and that's helping business owners really see what can they do now, even if you're working so hard in the business, to take that moment and work on the business. Now, the statement is, I never thought this could happen, right? Most people don't think things can happen. It is a possibility, and those things kind of flutter through. But really having a plan and risk proofing your business is a total different and a game changer for your business, and it's worth a lot. And while you're thinking about this story and reflecting, maybe you know stories of your own. Maybe you know instances in other companies, or maybe even yourself. Maybe you've experienced this in the past where something happened and you had to make a decision and deal with the consequences, whatever they might have been. And before we dive into all the different pieces that are in this component of the session, I do want to step back because it makes more sense if we're talking about value and growing your value to understand where we're coming from, right? The first session was all about identifying the value we have in our business. So the 5 stages are identify, protect, build, harvest, and manage. Don't worry about reading that fine print. This is more of the visual, and I want you to see on the right-hand side, we are on the second stair. So we have walked up the first, and now we're stepping on to that second one of how do we protect our business. Now, if we step back and say, what are the benefits? It's important to kind of go back and remember, like, why are we identifying the value? What's the importance of it? And then to take that next step to protect it, well, let's take a peek at what the benefits are. So one, focusing on the value and identifying it helps you know the value of your business. If you're not sure what the value of your business is right now, how valuable would it be to know? And what if you could do a simple estimate of value? We can offer this to you complimentary. Reach out to us. We're happy to do it. And you can start to explore this for yourself. You can understand your value drivers, what in your business can you work on, and how each one of these intangible value drivers actually have a money mark on your company and how it can be increased over time. Can better prioritize the actions in your business, measure of performance, better prepared for an exit. You're reducing the risk when you identify your value, grow your value, work on your protection, guide decision making, enhance that transferability. Even if your exit may not be, let's say, traditional, if you have already done all the steps in this process, remember 50% of exits are not chosen. Something happens and it is a forced exit, or it has to be chosen just due to the circumstances. So it's how can you powerfully move through that, enhance the transferability of business, reduce the risk of your business, even reduce the value gap, maybe even increase the profitability in the process and increase that multiple. And of course, this process is just a good business strategy. You don't have to be at the end of the game to do these things. It can be right at the start. Begin with the end in mind. Plan ahead. Walk through the steps for victory. 7 steps to victory. What are the 6 value drivers, right? We talked about this in session 1 of the roundtable. Maybe you could name 1 or 2. Take a minute, see if you remember. And if you don't, go back and watch that other one, but I'm going to give you the inside scoop right now. The strategic value, organizational value, your employee value, also your customer value, the financial, and the ESG, which is environmental, social governance. And we don't want to dwell on that too long because we've got a lot to cover today. So I'm going to step into that protecting value and how important this is and how it can feel overwhelming if you're just looking at it from the outside and going, how am I going to actually get all this done? But there's a process you can follow. And we are big on processes and helping guide companies to walk through these processes so you're not alone and you don't have to do the guesswork. You've got somebody guiding you every step of the way. But before we dive into the actual steps, it would make sense to know what the benefit is. Like, why would I even want to do this? Why would I even want to watch till the end of this? Well, here are some benefits that you can obtain by going through this process. So the first is protection of your assets. If you have not done any protection in your business, how high are the fences around you? Is it like walking in the neighborhood and you've got grass high protection? Or do you have like a 2-foot fence? Maybe it's a little see-through fence, like one of those with just slats. Or maybe it's a wood fence and it's solid and it's 8 to 10 feet tall. It's a big difference, right? So thinking about your assets, how protected are you when it comes to your business and your personal life? Minimize the financial losses. If something happens, having a plan in place and protecting your value, minimize the losses, right? It's just because you've done the work ahead of time. Better maintain business operations, so if something happens, that your business could sustain and keep running. And keep running without you is the optimal goal, and that's also for an exit. So if your business can run without you, how valuable could that be? It will reduce the risk of fines, penalties. Sometimes we don't even know these exist until we find out when we get one. So understanding what risks and things are in your industry and understanding what ways you can do to enhance the protection of it. Of course, you're going to be better prepared for an exit. It helps guide decision making. You gain sometimes just a competitive advantage over some of your competitors by having these plans in place. Why? Because it increases customer confidence. You're reliable, you're stable. You might even get better terms when it comes to financing or a line of credit, and also enhancing that transferability. Again, all this is just good business strategy. So if this looks good to you, keep watching and keep with me here today. So let's step back again one more time. We talked about the benefits. This session's all about protection, but what risks does your business face? And just sit with that for a minute. If I think about all the risks in my business, what are they? What am I facing? And if we walk through this, I've got categories for it, but in each category, this can become more detailed, right? There are financial risks, operational risks, strategic risks, maybe even compliance, There could be reputation risks, even technological. There's also human resources, and we've got supply chain. Environmental, right? Things can happen. Legal risks, market risks, competitive and competition risks. And you've got your 5Ds. And if you remember the 5Ds, maybe you can shout them out real quick before I get through them all. The first one, death, disability, disagreements, divorce, and debt. I didn't put that one on there, but that's another one. If you have too much debt, this can be a risk. So just take a minute and look at those and think about your business. And I'm going to step into what is the impact? Because if we have all those risks, it's one thing for you to be in the session and be hearing about this, but what's happening out there in the world right now? What's happening across the US for business owners? How risky is it really? Well, a study by the Small Business Administration found that 82% of small businesses fail due to cash flow problems. This is a financial risk, right? Cash flow problems, highlighting the importance of managing financial risk effectively. 82%. Operational risk example, according to the Institute for Business and Home Safety, an estimated 25% of businesses do not reopen following a major disaster. There are natural disasters all over this country all the time. And you think of the small businesses and even large ones that maybe don't have things in place and they're not able to sustain after those disasters. What about strategic risk? Deloitte says 80% of executives believe their company's strategic planning process is not effective for helping them respond to disruptive threats and opportunities. That's a big number. Legal risks. You know, the median cost for a small business to defend in a lawsuit is $15,000, while the median settlement cost is $30,000. That could be a big chunk if you weren't expecting it or saw it coming and now you're facing it head on. Society for Human Resources says that it estimates the average cost of employee turnover is between 50 and 200% of the employee's annual salary. I put 100 there because, well, that's a lot, right? You're paying for somebody even after they're gone because that was a risk you took by taking somebody on, and it might have been a high turnover role. It could have been so many things, but there are things that you can put in place to improve employee retention and keeping them with you for longer. And sometimes it's not really that many things you need to do, but things that are seen as valuable for the employees. So there are solutions. I think that's one thing is as you listen to these statistics is, yeah, it sounds pretty awful, but there are so many solutions. If we're willing to explore them, what are we wanting to do and how we're going to encounter and what do we want to take as the next best step. Zendesk says that 69% of customers will switch to a competitor due to poor customer service. Now, if you ask any business owner, what do they usually say they have? Right. Incredible customer service. However, that's a big number. So if that's the case, then how can we objectively review our company, see the risks that that imposes on our company, and what are the steps to improve it? So how do I risk-proof my business, right? You're looking at these numbers. And by the way, I saw that said 69 and said 80. It's 69. Just let's replace that with the 69 instead. So how do I risk-proof my business, right? If I'm going through all these steps and I've got all these risks, and you're like, man, Amanda, you're totally stressing me out right now. I don't have all these things planned for. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to give you 7 easy steps to follow and a few examples to help you understand. And you have this video so you can go back and watch it again, or you can contact us and we can walk you through what it would take to get you through and risk-proof your business. So the first of the steps, and again, this is just, I'm just going to go through them quickly and then we're going to walk through them one by one. One is risk identification. Number 2, risk management strategies. So as we identify, then we need strategies to be able to mitigate them. Covering the basics, we don't want to miss the basics, even though we might do all of this. If we miss the basics, this will not matter, right? We need to have a way to monitor our risks and then communicate and document any risks and what we're doing about the risks. Having an immediate risk plan, because sometimes you might have planned for everything except for that one thing that happens that you're like, oh my gosh, we totally didn't plan for that. So you need a plan in the immediate, right? You got to be able to respond with confidence, respond with clarity and calmness. And it's possible. So it's just a matter of having that plan in place and referring to it in those times of high stress. And of course, this is important, and we are big on this, is review the plans you have in place, all of them, each year. It is so key because sometimes we put these things, we create them, we put them into our different drives or our saving spot, and then they collect technology dust and nothing happens because they're no longer active. And 5 years from now, you're going to go, oh, yeah, we made that. It might help in that moment, but is it up to date? We don't know. So let's step into that first one. Step one, risk identification. So this is to identify all the potential risks. If you can go through each one of those sections, and I'm going to relist those categories, right, of risk, and go and list out just everything you can. And if you have a team, have everybody talk about this. What are the risks they think? What are the risks of the industry? What are the risks that you have personally faced? And categorize them into those sections, right? So I'm going to list them again. So you can take a peek there. And I'm going to give you an example. Because examples help. This might be helpful for you. And if it's not, just kind of speed through and get to the next one so you can apply this to your business. But at this point, financial risk, this is a dental office with one dentist. This is just an example, 3 employees, and they've been steady since 2012. Now, the financial risks in this dental office is the equipment breaks down and it requires costly repairs or replacement, right? It's just what happens. Over time, things break down. Know it and have to plan for it. Operational risks, well, staff shortages or turnover that can impact the service quality and patient satisfaction. Again, can just happen. People get sick, people leave, people have babies. There's any number of reasons somebody gets disabled, they need to step away. So what happens when one of your team members or you as the owner need to step away? Regulatory and compliance risk, failure to maintain proper documentation for patient record and treatment plans. If any of that goes in improper and not done right, it can have consequences. It may not be seen right away, but if it does, then now you've got to go back and fix, and that could take time, money, effort. Clinical risk, maybe there's patient dissatisfaction due to substandard treatment. So how do we manage that and mitigate that? There are technology breaches. What happens with our technology risk if somebody breaches that? There's cyber attacks or patient information is compromised. Could have a human resource. What if there's staff conflicts and just interpersonal issues that are just impacting your workplace? It's not enjoyable to be at the office, and it just takes everything that brings all the good of your company and is not benefiting you or the clients or your team. Supply chain, what if you only have one supplier and something happens to the supplier, right? This could be extremely stressful. And if you haven't diversified your suppliers and you need this, if it be a product or a service, this can be huge. Also, reputation risks. So a lot of companies, the reputation can really hurt the overall company. So negative online reviews or social media posts or anything that's being done either because that's what happened or if it was just somebody being mean and doing it just to do it, there are solutions, there are ways to fight and ways to step ahead of the game, right, because of the risk. So this is our example. And of course, this roundtable is all about applying it to your situation. So I want you to think about your business and choose one risk category and identify at least one risk. Of course, you can do this on your own after you get done with this, but just at least find one of these that you know that's a risk and we do need to take care of it and write down what the risk is. Okay, just take a few minutes. And we're going to move on to step 2, which is risk management strategies, right? I need to develop some strategies based on the risks that I just listed so I know what I'm going to do. It's part of our next step, which would be the action plan. So I need to also assign responsibilities because if there are certain things that need to be done, and let's say in a disability situation, if the dentist wasn't able to actually do it, who knows the plan to be able to implement the rest of this? So all these things are integrated together, and having a plan and everybody knows where the plan is can be highly beneficial. So in this risk management strategies, there's really like 4 ways that you can handle any of these risks. And that's the risk in the category, right? Financial risk and actual risk that's financial related. These 4, you can either prevent it, right? There's steps to prevent it. You can transfer the risk. You could mitigate the risk, and you can also accept it. So acceptance. And having a plan for all 4 can be highly beneficial in any of those risk situations. You might say, well, what do you mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's an example. I chose the first one. We're going back to the dental office. I chose the first one, financial risk. What could I do if I had equipment breakdowns requiring costly repairs? I just know this is part of the industry and the business. So what could I do? And if I pick those 4 areas, right, the prevent, transfer, mitigate, accept, what could I do for this one example? So the first thing is well, if I want to prevent this, maybe I'm going to purchase a new one 6 to 12 months before the common length of time that this equipment fails. And I'm going to have a supplier or service provider, somebody that can be right there on hand. I know where their number is. I know they have a quick turnaround, and maybe I have 2. Maybe because I have the dental office, I'm going to have 2. So if one goes down, I've got another. And until that one gets fixed, we can work this out, right? We've got a plan in place. This would need to have a little bit more plan in place if I had to, and I needed to work out how to map out this, or at least my team would know how to map this out, right? If I was the dentist, would know how to map this out because we've already talked about it. The second one is transfer. Maybe I have, in addition to my prevention, I've got a warranty. So if it happens to break down before this, I just have a warranty and I'm going to get it replaced and I don't have to worry about any unexpected issues. But if there's not a warranty, I need to have a way to get a new one. So I need to have a list of suppliers that I know can offer this. Maybe I even once a year check the prices so I can see which one's the best and I can mark like these 3 are the best. Identify maybe a couple dentists in the area that I trust and talk to them and say, if something happens and one of my patients, my equipment breaks down, or we have a patient that needs services that I'm not able to do due to any risk or anything that happens in our business, I would like to send them your way and maybe even have a referral program in place. Maybe they pay you 50% of that fee because they're getting to do it. They can cover their costs with the amount the client pays and splits the rest with you. So this is just an idea, right? But how valuable would that be if something happened? And this could be a solution. Or you might even just say, I'm not sure, I'm just going to accept this. I don't have a warranty. I may not have, you might use this one in addition to something else, but maybe you just decide to save enough money to replace it if you need to, and you don't have a warranty and it's not fixable. Now you've already accepted that this can cost you a certain amount and you've planned ahead. And you know how long it will take, and you may need to go send the clientele right to another dentist until that can be complete. So hopefully this example really opens up the idea that I've got risks. Now we've got ways to strategize around this, and then I can create solutions and I can have these all available, and the team can know, oh, when you're in a stress situation, sometimes your thought process isn't as clear unless you do really great under high stress situation and you're clear and you can make decisions. But for those that don't, and you get frazzled and you're just kind of like, I don't know what to do, this can be very helpful because you can refer back to it. So to apply this to your business, What I suggested this time is take that one risk that you chose, the one you identified in the category, and then identify what can I prevent? How can I transfer that risk? How can I mitigate it? How can I accept it? And who will be responsible? This one we didn't put who would be responsible, but there might be a number of people in that process that would be responsible and that would be in the plan. So you're seeing a lot more things here, right? You're like, Amanda, what about these? We already have the risks. What are these? These are all potential solutions, right? I gave you 4 categories. You might add in safety protocols, employee training, that could be a prevention, outsource your risky activities. Maybe that's prevention as well, or transferring the risk to somebody else because you don't want to deal with it in-house. Maybe you're going to purchase insurance, maybe for disability, even death or business overhead expense, or maybe there's a warranty program or something else that you can do that's a part of your operation that you'd be able to purchase insurance and cover it. Maybe there's a backup system that you can use, like this is the one we use, this is our backup. Conduct regular maintenance on things so you know, hey, this is in good order, or you know what, this one is, has a couple of parts that need to be replaced. Get it ahead of time. Management companies, maybe instead of managing certain things, you outsource the management. Diversifying suppliers can be a solution. Maintain healthy cash flow. Save money for emergencies. On the personal side, most often it's 6 months to 1 year you should have saved up in case anything happens. Now, I don't hear this as much on the business side, but how valuable would it be to have 6 months to 1 year saved up that if anything happened in your business, you could sustain all the expenses and powerfully move through until you were able to get whatever solved and get back on your feet and get the clients moving again. Also, regular audits and testing of systems can be very valuable. Create a contingency plan and identify and train people to actually implement the plan in place. Okay, so these are great, just overall tools that can be used to help with that risk management strategies. So let's go to 3. Cover the risk basics. So developing a plan for the 5 Ds using the prevent, transfer, mitigate, accept can be highly valuable. And why do I pick the 5 Ds? Well, these 5 Ds are the ones that are most likely to happen out of all the risks in your business, unless there's just certain risks that are super light. They just happen in the business and you should plan for it. And you might already be planned for it because it's that risky. These are the ones that we know about. We have easy to use tools and ways of going about this. And yet it is sometimes the most overlooked aspect of our risk management plan. So looking at what would you want to do for prevention, transfer, mitigate, or accept when it comes to death, disability, divorce, disagreement, or distress. This can be very valuable even if you were to skip the rest of this and go through at least these 5. You will make your business more valuable by having a plan and actually creating the actions and implementing the actions ahead of time for your business. So let's go back to the example because I love examples and I like how we can show what is possible in this space. So I've got my dentist. We've got the 3 employees, steady since 2012. And this is a plan for disability. So out of the 5 Ds, I chose disability. And these are the questions to ask. You can use these questions. These are for you. Use these questions for yourself for the 5 Ds. The first is, do I have a plan in place now? What is the impact of not having a plan? I need to know what the impact is going to be. What is the action plan if this does happen? And who will be involved? And who will keep up with my plan? How will I keep up with my plan? Who? Hopefully you and your team. If you don't have a team, you will keep up with this yearly. And who do you need to help with the completion of this process? Like maybe there's a professional or a specialist or somebody that you would need to meet that you can't do this on your own to be able to walk through and get it done. If we go back to the example, we've got the dental office, right? The dentist, the employees, 3 employees in a steady practice since 2012. Now, this is the plan for disability for the dentist, right? Do they have a plan? What's the plan? How are they going to deal with this? So currently, when we ask the question, what plan do I have in place now? The answer is none. So if anything happened to the dentist right now, he would have to self-insure. What does self-insure mean? It means he's paying for everything, right? The dentist, if he doesn't have any clients that can come in because he's disabled, all that he needs to cover the cost of the operation, his own personal costs, could be mortgage, life, school, for kids, you name it. All that is coming out of the personal pocket of the dentist. Employees need to be paid, so that comes out of the business. And if that's for an extended period of time, this can get very painful, right? So what is the impact? Well, could lose significant amount of money or even the practice, right? If it's too much, you can't recover, there was no plan in place, you might lose not only money, but also the practice. So in this example, self-insuring can be quite expensive. So what's the action plan? Remember, they have no plan, right? Not right now. What can they do though? So what is the action plan? So right now, to help prevent for a disability, there could be ongoing training, right? Safety precautions put in the practice for any lines of electrical lines that is taped over or walk over so nobody trips and falls, including the dentist, including the hygienist, including clients, right? That could be a liability. So making sure the training and the safety precautions are put into place. Transfer, well, instead of not having a plan in place, put a disability policy in for the dentist. So that covers all the personal expenses of the dentist, and then put a business overhead expense for the office. So all the office expenses can be taken care of for the period of time that the dentist is out. To mitigate this, have a referral plan in place, have something where you can have 3 local dentists maybe, or 1, 2, 3, 4, where they can work if anything beyond cleaning. So if your team, like in this example, if the team was able to take care of the normal flow of clients, at least for cleanings, great, keep them coming. But if there's anything beyond that that needs to be reviewed for cavities or fillings or root canals, you've got people, right? This is for this example. So it would make sense to have something in place to help mitigate the issue if there was a disability, and accept save enough reserves to sustain the practice. So in addition, they can, if they don't have anything else in place, save enough money so the practice will sustain, have a personal savings for up to 6 to 12 months, so that if anything is going in and there's a disability, you're covered. Now, if you did the insurance and you didn't just self-insure, then that can be better, right? So who's involved in this? Well, it could be a spouse, right? In my example, I put spouse, maybe the hygienist, right? They're going to need to either work or be able to maneuver, or maybe they're going to that other office with that other dentist and they're working at their office until the dentist can get back on their feet, right? And having that receptionist be a help, and maybe letting the clients know about what's going on, how long the dentist is going to be out, and being that kind of customer service concierge, hand holding, white glove, that everybody's going to be okay, and you're going to take care of them. So just think about how this could be. It could be really stressful and kind of crazy, or it could be very, planned, well thought out, well executed, and then you've got the next steps you take. Okay, so how will you keep up with the plan? Well, in this example, we said review it in December with the team. Every year, everything is reviewed in terms of business plan, marketing plan, and also the risk management plan. Who do you need? Well, in this example, you might need a financial pro to put in that disability policy and the business overhead expense. And maybe there's even a few things you can do to earn money on the money that's just being saved. So you're putting the money to work at least while it's in there. And so this gives you kind of a way to walk through this. And I want you to apply this to your business. Now, if you're watching the replay back, then just push pause, go through these 6 Ds, and go ahead, or 5 Ds, with debt as being one of them would be 6, and 5 Ds, and answer the 6 questions. What plan do I have in place now? What's the impact of not having the plan? What's the action plan? Who's going to be involved? How will I keep up with this? And who do I need to complete the process? So take a few moments, at least do one, so you have one on the books. And if you can do the rest, great. Knock it out now or find a time that you can do it in the near future. Okay. Step 4. So now that we've identified the risks, we have risk management strategies in place, we've covered the basics, but what about monitoring this? So if it's a technology or an operational or strategic, you might want to think about what monitoring tools, what will be a trigger to activate some of these measures that we have put into place, these risk management strategies, who is preventing, but also what about monitoring to make sure that what we've put in place is working. So for example, let's say reputation risk. Maybe for every review that comes in, if it's a negative, there's going to be a company that follows up with those negative reviews, replies, and then does rebuttals to try to get those negative reviews removed if they are not accurate or done out of, maybe it's a competitor, maybe it's something else. Somebody wrote a review that is not in accordance, or maybe not even a client, right? So just having those steps in place that are a part of the process of your business, but it's monitoring and seeing and taking action when those triggers happen. And you can definitely create communication channels for reporting this and keeping up with it. Maybe there's a review done monthly with the team when you guys are doing your monthly meetings to just kind of say, hey, this is what happened, this is what we did, and this was what the impact or what the resolution was, and you move on. Okay. Step 5 is communicate and document. This is part of step 4, which is monitoring, and documenting is a part of that, right? If I'm going to monitor and something happens, then I need to be able to document this and communicate it. So if your clients need to know that their information was compromised, you need to have a communication process for that. What are the steps? How often do you tell them? When do you tell them? You've got to tell them as soon as possible, but how are you going to tell them? Are you going to send them an email blast? Is it going to be email and call? Is it going to be an email and a text and a call? Or is it going to be ongoing updates? Or is it going to be a one-time thing? So you've got to look at what in your industry is, one, the common practice for some of your risks, and two, what do you want to do? Because this is your business and this is your process. How are you going to assess it? How are you going to mitigate it and monitor it through? And having more documentation, you may not like it in the process, but you will thank yourself later for doing it. And maybe it's assigning somebody that that's their role. Maybe one role is monitoring it, one role is communicating, and one role is documenting. They all work together across that risk, but they are doing different tasks within it. So nobody feels like it's all on them. So let's say all that planning happened, right? And there's something that comes up we didn't plan for. I've got a quick little process that you can follow, which is assess the situation. Whatever happens, just assess it. No emotion, just objectively, what are the facts on the ground? What happened? What was before, during, after? And then what responses do I have? If I have a plan in place, I activate it, right? If I have components of a plan and I could activate it, great. Assess the situation, communicate with your team, and then activate the response. Now, what things can I put in place to help mitigate that impact? So if I have done any planning, what did I have? Maybe in that situation, I did have an insurance policy, or I do have something, or I do have a specialist that I can reach out to. I'm going to take those steps to help mitigate the impact or work faster so it doesn't prolong the situation longer than I wanted it to. And then communicating, right? Communicating with the team, communicating with the clients, communicating with the community, whoever needs to be in communication with this, whatever it may be, you've got a step for it. And then what can we learn from this? Sometimes we go through these things, you're like, I never want that to happen again. But there were a lot of learning opportunities, and all you have to do is take note of that. What did everybody learn? What was one thing you took away from the situation we could do better and what did we do good at and we could enhance for next time. Always raising the bar. Okay. Now, the last of the 7 steps, right? Review the risk plan. So schedule that yearly review of it, identify areas of improvement. We talked about that, and identify changes in roles. So if you have at the beginning of the year identified certain people to take on certain roles, but they are not the right person and not in the right seat and not at the right time, then move them to where they will be the right person in the right seat at the right time. So you get the best impact for whatever happens and people feel cool and comfortable with the role that they are playing. So I wanted to bring all this together, right? We went through a lot, and this is, 7 steps plus some tips, plus team roles, plus our value drivers. But when you see it like this, what I want you to kind of take in for yourself is that these 7 steps can be as simple or as detailed as you want them to be. It's what is workable for you and your business and your team. The bottom is who's the team? And you'll see on the right-hand side, leader. Somebody's got to be the leader. If you cannot make decisions in a stressful situation, you need to hand the baton to somebody else to be the leader in a stressful situation for those risks. Somebody needs to be an effective communication leader. One might be safety. One will be the resources, the person that you just go to because they're going to have everything available and they're the ones you want to go to for certain things. And then documentation. Somebody's going to be documenting this all along the way and filling those seats. And there's more, but this is just for a simple example. You could even search more roles that your team could play and ask them, which of these do you feel like you would be one, feel like it's comfortable, that's what you naturally kind of gravitate towards. And two, if we got into a situation that you would not be frazzled, then you could work under stress and get that done with efficiency. Asking is a great step. Now, if everybody thinks that this one person should do a certain role and they don't think they should be doing that role, you might want to think about that and see if there's somebody that could work with them in that role if they are good at it but are just a little afraid. The last section on the bottom left is that list of service providers. Have something in your CRM or in your set of strategy or your team or even in this plan, a list of service providers, their phone number, their email, how to contact them, review them, make sure they're still in business every year, and then any policies that have been purchased that if something happened to you or your business or let's say the dentist, if something happens to the dentist and only the dentist knows he has these things in place, that doesn't help him. So have a list that everybody can at least see the policy number, who to call, what company it is, who was the, advisor on that plan so they can reach out and see what do we need to do next. So this is very helpful. And keeping all of this in mind, that we are in the second stage of the 5 stages of value maturity, and you've got drivers here, and all those have risks. And how am I enhancing my business by going through this risk-proof plan to take my business to the next level? So I, want to pause here as you're watching this or thinking about what value add takeaways can I take away from this session? What could be valuable for me? And, feel free to just think about that, write it down, something that stood out for you. I'm going to give you mine, which is the 7 steps to risk proof your business. You have 7 steps you can follow that help you risk proof your business. That's awesome. You have strategy, a structure to actually have risk management strategy in place. We talked about the 5 Ds and having a plan to cover them and having 4 steps in that plan to be able to do it. And a 5-step immediate action plan. If God forbid something happens that you did not plan, you can walk through confidently, clear, and having the right team in place. Even if you're an individual entrepreneur and you're like, Amanda, I don't have a team. What do you mean team? Who am I going to lean on? That might be a spouse, a best friend. It might be a collaborator. It could be somebody that knows your business, they understand at least somewhat of what you do, and they can at least make calls to help with you and help you in the process. So think about who those people are. I'm going to wrap this up and give you a couple questions to, again, keep thinking about. So, what stood out for you? I asked you in the value takeaways what stood out for you, but really, what stood out for you in this session that you could say, that was like an aha, or you know what, I could put that into practice. I could use it for myself, or maybe the clients that I work with. The second question is, what area of risk proofing a business do you think is most important? You may be working in a particular industry and you may think that, hey, this one area, like I said, the basics, like the 5 Ds, you might even say, like, these one or two things are just super important for this type of business. And that can be very beneficial because if somebody you're working with or your business, you plan for that, it can be valuable. And the last question is, what is one action you can take today to risk proof your business? We all, if you're watching this, you either are in a business or you're running a business. And what could be something you could either bring to your, your team leader, your boss, or to your own team, your own business, and say, you know what, maybe we could do this. It might help the business out, make us more valuable, and protect us for the long haul. So just keep these three in mind as you think about this session and how you can apply it to your business and really take your business to the next level. So the next steps are, hey, if we could bring any value to you, download this, keep the deck for yourself and utilize it, put it into place. If we could be of value to review maybe your risk proof plan, I'd be happy to take 30 minutes up to an hour just to take a peek at it. We'll get as far as we can and see if we can give you any suggestions. If you want to explore creating a risk proof plan and putting those things into place for your business, then great, schedule a time. I've got my Calendly right there. You can schedule a time with me and we can walk through what does that take and what would it entail. And maybe you did your risk proof plan and you're like, I need some people. I've got some people that I need to talk to and I don't have those connections. We have a network of specialists. And with the different groups you might be involved in, you might have those connections. So reach out, find out who could be the one to help you and move forward with it. And of course, attend an upcoming roundtable. We'd love to see you there. And hopefully, this session brought not only value to your business, remember the story of the business owner that I told you, my better half that helped start and launch this business that we run today at a financial firm that is all about helping companies secure what they've worked so hard to build that you can lose in a moment if you didn't take the steps to plan ahead. So get out there, keep raising the bar, and we look forward to seeing you next time.